And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the 8th Day Chronicles YouTube channel here at Cross Timbers Farm. Today we're going to take the last of our goat's milk for the year and make some simple farmer's cheese. We won't be using rennet. We'll use a very basic recipe, very simple process, very few tools needed, probably things you already have, but it makes a delicious creamy cheese that it's very multi-purpose. You can use it savory or sweet. And then I have a little extra milk that we're going to make some coffee creamer with because I like my coffee with cream. So let's get started. For the cheese, we need very basic equipment. You just need a heat source. You need 2 pots. I like to use a little heavier metal pots. The basic recipe is 1 gallon of milk, and as you can see we only have 3 quarts, so we won't be making a full batch. You'll need cheesecloth, a slotted spoon, salt, a thermometer, an acid, either apple cider vinegar, lemon juice, or white vinegar. Today we'll use apple cider vinegar, and then just a measuring cup for that. And then you can add herbs of your choice at the end. You can use garlic, salt, pepper, Italian spices, or you can do a sweet cheese. You can add some molasses or coconut sugar. Honey is always good, vanilla bean paste. So that's what we'll do for the cheese. Then for the coffee creamer, I'll use whatever milk we have left over. I have a cup here. We'll probably do 2 cups. Then I'm just going to add some sugar and vanilla bean paste. So we'll get those started. Okay, we're going to start with 2 quarts of milk. And this is raw goat's milk. And from the 3rd quart, I'm actually going to take 1 cup out of it for my coffee creamer. I'm just shaking it a little here to make sure that the cream is still there. So, okay, so there's 2 quarts for our coffee creamer. 2 cups, I mean, for our coffee creamer. Now, the recipe for this cheese is 1 gallon of milk. You're going to bring it to a temperature of between 180 and 195. Some things say just to a steam. Some recipes say to bring it to a rolling boil. The hotter your milk is, the harder your curd will be. So it's going to depend on what application you want to use for your cheese. If you want a creamy cheese, of course you're going to want to not get that temperature quite as hot. We'll just add our candy thermometer to it, and we'll turn it on a medium heat. And then we have our slotted spoon to stir occasionally. So we'll let that get going. Then we're going to come over here and start our coffee creamer. Add cocoa powder, cinnamon, honey. Again, just whatever you like. And I'm just going to bring this to a slow simmer just until the ingredients dissolve. Let it cool, and that will be my coffee creamer for the week. Okay, you have the milk going for the cheese, the milk going for the coffee creamer. I'll get the rest of those ingredients added. I don't really have a recipe for that. I just add to taste, however sweet you want it, how vanilla you like. So I'll check back with you when this milk comes to temperature. It's about 2 tablespoons vanilla bean paste. And I'll add about 1/4 cup of sugar to this. This raw coconut sugar is not as sweet as cane sugar. See how it goes. Here we are. Do a check real quick. The thermometer says we are about 145 degrees, so not long, not long. And our coffee creamer is coming along quite nicely. We may have to make a pot of coffee once that's ready and cool, because it's good. Okay, so this is literally the moment of magic, the moment that I love. Our thermometer is about 180 degrees. I want this to be a little softer cheese this time. So I'm gonna stir that skim off the top. I already have my vinegar measured over here. I'm gonna turn the heat off and vinegar. Now remember, I didn't use a full gallon. I did use a little more than 2 quarts, so a little more than half a gallon. I'm gonna start out with not quite 1/3 of a cup. If you are not getting the coagulation, the separation of curds and whey that you want, you can add more acid, about a tablespoon or so at a time, but let's see what we get. Oh, it's starting. Okay, you can start to see that separation much better now. If you see the whey has a bit of a yellow look, and you can see those curds nicely separating from it. I usually leave it sitting 10 or 15 minutes before I start slotting it into our cheesecloth. I'm not going to add any more acid. I think that was a good amount for what I want this cheese to look like. So we'll let that sit and separate, and then we'll come back and strain it off. Okay. Also, our coffee creamer has heated thoroughly. The sugar is dissolved. Sorry, I'm getting the camera at an odd angle. Nicely dissolved. I've turned the heat off. It's starting to cool. I wish you could smell and or taste this. It's beautiful. You can see all those vanilla bean pieces floating around in there. I'm not going to strain it because I actually like that. Let's see if I can get that up a little closer so you can see that beautiful vanilla bean. Okay. So basically all I did with the coffee creamer was about 2 cups of milk, tablespoon or so of vanilla bean paste, about 1/4 of a cup of organic raw sugar. You can use brown sugar, you can use cane sugar, you can use white sugar, you can add cinnamon, cocoa powder. You know what? It's your coffee creamer, however you like it. That should be what you do. And if you don't like flavored coffee creamer, I still strongly suggest goat's milk for your creamer. Okay? We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Okay, we've left the curds and whey to separate for about 5 minutes. I want you to see the product that we have. You can see we have nice separation. It almost looks like you could cut the curds. Get that camera where you can see it. I'm a terrible photographer, and Darren will tell you that. He really should be in here videoing, so if you want to leave a comment encouraging him to help me with the videoing, that would help my cause tremendously. But I'm going to do the best I can to show you this without making you really dizzy and Dramamine warning here. But Okay, so you can see that it almost looks like you could cut the curds. I'm gonna try to scoop some up. See that nice separation? So I'm going to set the camera back up on the tripod. Whoops. And just ladle these curds into this cheesecloth lined pot that I have. Now I'm gonna mention this cheesecloth looks pretty rough because I stole some of it when I was making chow chow and I needed something to store my herbs in. But if you don't have a cheesecloth, don't worry about it. You can use an old bandana, an old pillowcase, an old t-shirt. Just make sure whatever you're using is clean. This is really stained where it's being used so much. All you want is something, a material that is fine enough to catch your curds, but the holes are woven loosely enough to let the whey drip through. So no cheesecloth, again, don't worry, just use something, okay? Okay, I think I have this set up good enough that you can see what I'm doing. I'm just gonna take the slotted spoon and start transporting these curds over onto our cheesecloth. Beautiful. So a gallon of milk should yield about a pound to a pound and a half of cheese. We have a little more than half a gallon of milk here, so I'm expecting 3/4 of a pound or so. This is such a fun thing to do. It's for some reason so satisfying. The whey that is left, there are many uses for whey. You can bake with it. You can use it as in your protein shakes, things like that. You can freeze it. You can feed it to your chickens. You can feed it to your other animals. So don't throw away your whey. There's many, many uses for it. You can even use it in the garden. Okay, so I'm gonna finish straining off these curds and show you how much whey we have left. Okay, so I think that our curds have drained as long as I want them to. So I'm just going to salt them, about a half tablespoon of salt. And I think I'm not gonna add anything else right now until I decide what I want to do with it. So I hope you can see how creamy this is. You can see it. Okay, these curds are just gorgeous. And we're just gonna add, I like Himalayan salt. Regular Morton's iodized salt works well too. I can find a measuring spoon. I don't want to get it too salty. About a half a tablespoon, because it is a tablespoon. The recipe calls for a tablespoon. You do need salt in your cheese because it helps give it flavor. But here we go. And then we'll just take a fork and mash that in nicely. Okay, we're just gonna work that salt in. At this point, you can add your herbs about, to taste, but the recipe says a tablespoon of herbs. Like I said, I'm just gonna leave this plain this time. You can see it, we got our temperature to about 185 and it drained about 20 minutes. You can see it's still nice and moist. You could drain it longer to make a crumblier cheese, more like a feta. You could drain it a little shorter amount of time to make it stick together a little more than it does now. You could even add some whey back to it, just to make it stick together a little more. You can put it, at this point, you can put it in a press. Goat cheese, fresh Chevre. It's perfect. It doesn't really need anything else. Okay, very quickly before I go, I wanted to show you the cheeses that I made earlier in the week. This is a chipotle. It was wonderful with tacos. This was a basic garlic and herb. Apparently it was just good to eat because it's almost gone. This is the cheese we just made. Unflavored, just salt. We have our extra whey. The animals will love that, or have some sourdough starter that needs fed. Okay. Thank you all so much for joining me this afternoon at Cross Timbers Farm and the 8th Day Chronicle YouTube channel for our basic cheese making episode. I hope you learned something. I hope you will try to make some cheese yourself. I hope you have a blessed Labor Day weekend. If you have not done so, if you would please like and subscribe our channel, it really gives us the motivation to keep going, bringing you more content. Darren has lots of videos on the haying equipment. We're trying to do some videos on our day-to-day life here at the farm. We have several projects going in the future, some pretty big projects that hopefully will allow me to cut back on some work hours and be here on the farm with him more full-time than I am now. So please like and subscribe, comment, let us know what content you would like to see, and until then, happy Chev.